Thank you so much for joining this course. This is a full stack .NET developer course, and in this, we are going to go over multiple technologies. We are going to do some front-end development, some back-end development. We are going to understand the agile framework. We are going to do some unit testing, integration testing through automated testing. Then we are going to talk about databases. We're going to talk about microservices. We're going to talk about cloud. Uh, so if I have to explore these topics in detail, on the front end side, we're going to have HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, JavaScript, jQuery, Angular. There is also going to be some React, and I'm going to try to include Xamarin or Blazor in week number 7. On the backend development side, the stack is a little longer. We're going to talk about C# programming language. Then we're going to see different programming paradigms. We're going to do a couple of design patterns. Then we are going to understand the difference between these two frameworks. Uh, uh, the .NET Framework and .NET Core. I think some people are having difficulty joining. Uh, give me 1 minute. Copy. Right. Okay. Then we're going to do some .NET Framework study itself. And then we're going to move into the server-side web development, which is ASP.NET MVC. And we're also going to develop some web APIs. To complete the spectrum, we're going to do some WPF and desktop development. And then we are going to move to service creations. Uh, all right. So, all right. So I think I'm expecting at least one more participant. Uh, all right. Uh, we're going to do some SOAP services and RESTful services. Then in the testing side, I'm not going to cover it all, but then I'm definitely going to do some unit testing and I'm going to do some test-driven development. And then while doing this, we're going to cover NUnit or XUnit, at least one of these three frameworks, right? Jasmine, Mocha, Jasmine, Karma, they are more on the front-end development side, and then unit testing tools. On the databases side, I'm definitely going to cover SQL. MySQL is almost similar because they are all based on the same standard. MongoDB is the NoSQL DB implementation. We're going to do this, or I'm thinking of another database that is called the Couch database. We're going to do this. Redis is another NoSQL database. Probably we're going to cover that. And then we're going to show you how databases are different in on the cloud, mostly in Azure. Then we're going to move to microservices. In microservices, we are going to talk about Docker and Kubernetes. Uh, these technologies, they are not microservices, but then they make creating microservices very easy. One more minute. So Nitin Davre. All right. So on the cloud side, it is not going to be an extensive cloud development course, but then it is going to cover some cloud fundamentals and it is going to walk you through multiple features of the Azure platform. So with that, we're going to somewhere in the middle, I've also tucked in the Agile and DevOps development. Over here, we're going to talk about how software development lifecycle of Agile is different than DevOps. We're going to talk about some of the Agile methodology. Uh, we are also going to talk about some methodologies, and this is our general training schedule. I'm going to try to stick to this, but then a couple of things might spill over into some other days. But the first week mostly is going to be reserved for HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, and then probably on Friday I'm going to give you a hands-on assignment, which will be based on what we have learned in week number 1. Week number 2 is going to be a little bit of SQL and databases. Starting week number 2, the course is going to get a little intensive and it is going to focus on C Sharp. Now, this is where you're going to learn most of your programming. I'm going to introduce you to multiple programming paradigms. Just one second. All right. So in the C#.NET section, I'm going to introduce you to multiple programming paradigms, and then knowledge of these paradigms is extremely important, regardless of the type of programming that you want to do. Whether you want to do Angular or jQuery, or you want to do Java or Angular or React, this week here and the design pattern section here is going to set the base for the kind of applications that you are creating. Uh, in the next week, we're going to talk about the agile frameworks, and then how unit testing and agile and DevOps, they are closely linked. So this week is going to set you up for working in enterprise grade projects and working in bigger teams. Then we're going to switch back to handheld devices and desktop application development. And in week number 7, we're going to do some WPF, Xamarin, or probably some Blazor, and we're going to build another application based on that. Uh, in week number 8, we're going to create web-based applications, applications that run on the internet, and they get consumed on the internet. This is where Docker and Kubernetes are also going to come in picture. There are projects lined up on these technologies in the next week, but then if we are not able to cover those topics, this content is going to slide a little bit. With that, the last 3 weeks, I would expect you to do an extensive project based on all the previous technologies that we have discussed so far. There are some topics that I've listed over here. Probably you might have received this as a PDF format. Uh, this is the kind of machine that I expect that you should at least have this kind of configuration. If you don't have this, you will still be able to follow through the labs, you will still be able to do some hands-on, but then the experience is not going to be as good. So feel free to upgrade your machines, or continue the ones that you have, but this is what I would recommend. Uh, for software requirement, I would expect that you all are on Windows 10, because if you're not on Windows 10, probably Docker is not going to run for you. Also check your edition. If you are on Home Edition, Docker is not going to work. You will have to bump your operating system up to Professional Edition. .NET Framework, .NET Core, you will have to have these installed, and I'm going to give you tips on how to install these softwares. Right? You can install SQL Server on your computer, but then there are other tricks that I'm going to show you later in the course, with which you can get away without installing these softwares. Alright, these are registration. Alright, so let's get started. I Yesterday I asked you guys to install Microsoft Teams. I hope you are all available on Teams. With that, I'm going to pull. Alright, so this is a whiteboard, and for today I am thinking multiple topics. Uh, I'm going to talk about what GitHub is. If you're not already familiar with it, is going to be a good primer. And before that, let me go ahead and tell you how to go about software installation on your computer. So um, let me turn on a setting, and I'm going to show you something. All right. So in the Start menu, type PowerShell, and then on PowerShell, sure, sure. All right. I'm so sorry. So I'm going to share the screen. All right. Do you guys see it? All right. All right. Thanks, Prashant. All right. All right. So I'm going to show you some tricks. I'm going to launch the PowerShell on the Start menu. On the Start menu, I'm going to come type PowerShell. It is popping up on my other window. So let me go ahead and scroll down. Uh, So it is available under W, Windows, PowerShell. Alright, no worries. I am going to launch it from here. You'll have to click on this button, run as administrator, and this is when it is going to pop up a new menu, and you're going to see this. Uh, Let me increase the font size a little. Uh, Sure. All right. Give me 1 minute. I don't know why it's doing that. Let me figure that out. All right, do you guys see it now? All right. Okay. Uh, I launched PowerShell from this command line option here. I right clicked on it, and on this menu here, I right clicked again and ran it as administrator. Now, uh, one tip that I would give you at this point is you should never uh, install things like this. So there are tools that you will have to install, such as Visual Studio Code. It is called VS Code. I would avoid, as a developer, installing tools like this. So you come to Windows, and then Windows is going to start downloading a file, and then when the setup is ready, you double click on the setup. Uh, that is going to get the job done, but then it is going to cause um, you and your fellow team members to get on different directions sometimes. And then it is always good to have scripts, and for scripting this thing you should know how to use command line and how to install software using the command line. So I'm going to show you a quick trick. There's a utility called Chocolatey that is available on the internet. So I'm going to go to chocolatey.org, and then there is a little button here called install. So once you click on this, you're going to see once again two options of setting it up. Somewhere down below there is an option for downloading an exe for this, but then what I prefer is I prefer running it through the PowerShell. Right, so I see somebody trying to join. Right. All right, all right. Nathan, can you go mute, please? Can you go mute? Thank you. All right. So we are in PowerShell. We launched it as administrator, and on the chocolatey.org we see a script, and that script is uh, available over here for copying. If I click on this button, I can copy the script. Now, if I come to PowerShell, right click, it is going to paste it automatically. If I hit enter, it is going to connect to the internet, and it is going to get that utility for me, and it is going to install. Because I have that utility already installed on my computer, it is giving an error message, but I'm hoping that for you guys it is going to work out. So let me go ahead and share this link with you guys on the chat bar. Now I don't expect you guys to follow along as I'm typing this. I'm making a recording of this, and I'm going to share it with you guys right after the meeting. So let me go ahead and click the record button. All right. So the link is in your chat window. You don't have to follow along right now. I've copied this thing. I've come to PowerShell. I've pasted this, and this will install Chocolatey for you. Once this utility is done, if I type Choco in my console command, this is what I see. Chocolatey version 1 is available. Now, the reason this is so powerful is that if I have to install any software, all I have to do is figure out the package for that. So I want to install VS Code, which is Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to search Choco VS Code, and mostly the first search result is going to directly take you to that utility page. And then if you run this command, it is going to install Visual Studio Code for you. Uh, so you come here and paste it, but generally it is going to ask you some interactive question that are you very sure, do you accept all the terms and conditions, and for that you will have to pass on some commands here. So hyphen force is going to ignore most of the things, and it is going to forcefully install that particular software. Hyphen yes is going to accept any interactive questions that they ask, like do you accept this agreement, do you are you okay with this thing getting installed. So you can type the full option, or you can type -f -y, and I generally use another option, which is -x, which is for some unsigned unregistered utilities. So if I install this, it is going to go ahead and probably try installing Visual Studio package for me, but then I have that package already available on my machine and it is running over here, right? So let me pull that up. So this code is available for me over here, and this is like the first utility that you will require for running this application. Another important thing that you will have to install is GitHub. So let's go ahead and do that again. Choco install GitHub. All right, and notice that the first search result once again. I don't know if I wanted GitHub, but it is available over here. It is a desktop client. I probably wanted GitHub CLI, so I'm just going to type GitHub, and you can see that there are multiple results that you're seeing. Probably GitHub is a wrong choice. I should type GitHub git CLI, and let me just type git. All right, and with git you're going to see multiple utilities. So I have this thing installed on my computer already, and for all the softwares that I generally need for development, I have a script created for this already. Don't worry about writing this. I'm going to share this entire link with you. You will have to run this script inside PowerShell as an administrator, and it is going to install all these utilities: Visual Studio 2019, VS Code, SQL Server, then git.install, then some other .NET utilities that I'm going to introduce you to as we move along the course. So with those two utilities installed, our machine is all set. Right, so I have Visual Studio Code running, I have GitHub also running, but then let me go ahead and explain you the utility, the reason why I created those utilities. So what we have done so far is we have installed Choco. It is an online automation tool for installing uh, other softwares, if I can say that. Right, you should avoid manually downloading and installing through exe, because for your machine it is fine, but then you would want your program to run on somebody else's computer as well, right? You would want your code to run on somebody else's computer as well, and then if your machine and their machine are exactly the same, your softwares are going to run extremely easy. So utilities like this, they help. Then we installed VS Code, which is the editor that we are going to use today very extensively, and then we installed Git. So now that we have all the essential tools available with us, let's go ahead and talk about Git, and this is where I'm going to start drawing on the screen. Right. One thing that you have to understand in the corporate world is that nobody is going to work in silos. So probably, pardon my drawing skills, my art skills, but then probably this is you. And then you're going to work on bigger and fancier projects. As you're working on this project, you're going to create multiple documents, and then these documents could be a lot of things. It could be an HTML file, it could be CSS, it could be a lot of JavaScript, C# code, uh, right? So all of that work, they are stored on your computer as file. But then there's not going to be one file. They're going to be hopefully hundreds or thousands of files if you are lucky. Sometimes it can be more than that. So definitely you're going to organize these things inside a folder structure, and then each folder is going to have multiple files, and then each file in this folder is going to have hundreds of lines. For the first time, for the beginner, this is going to suffice. But as you work on more and more critical applications, somebody would not be uh, the work that you have done is not going to be effective for a lot of people, and they would come back with changes, and changes generally would cause you to probably change the files that you have already created. So this was probably version number one. In version number two, you are going to have to switch or make some modifications to exactly this one file, right? And then you would not want to lose this file in your next version. So what you're going to do is uh, the entire difference, what you created in this file, and the new changes that you want to make in this file, you're going to come and do it under a different uh, branch. All right. So this is a very, very important word, and I would want you to remember this. As you are working on multiple enterprise grade projects, you are going to have to create multiple branches for the new changes and new features that you are adding to an application that is already running in production. All right. The reason we do this is because uh, in a team, you are complex enterprise projects, they probably have bigger teams. You are not alone on your silo working on your own computer. There are people around you who are contributing to that application, right? And uh, the ability to work in team with multiple people is uh, going to greatly impact how successfully you are going to deliver your applications. And this setup that you have here, let me go ahead and copy this. All right, this little setup that you have going on here, it is almost the same for others as well. All right, so they have their own small files and their own small folder structure, their own files, and they are also working on different features that probably you are not working on. So you're working on requirement number one, requirement number two, this guy is working on three, this guy is working on four. Everybody has different part of the application that they are working on, and how you collaborate and communicate together is going to greatly affect. You don't want to save everything on your computer and share data with your team members through say a shared drive, or you're WhatsApping documents to them. You don't want to do that. You The entire work that you are creating, you would want to put it somewhere in a centralized silo on the internet to which everybody else is connected, and that silo is called a source control. So the general industry word for that thing is source control, and GitHub and Git is a source control technology, and GitHub is a platform for that. What we are going to do is, as we are working on this application, all the work that we are going to do, we are going to eventually push this entire thing into this particular centralized repository, and everybody else who is working on this project, they are going to contribute their work as well. And this is why Git is important. So two reasons: one, you want to share your work with your team members, and then two, because you are working on different features at the same time, you would want to have some form of copy created and maintained for you. If you do it manually yourself, you're going to run into issues, and then this is where technologies like Git come in picture, and they are very, very, very handy. So we're going to do some Git when we are working on this application. I heard that somebody tried to unmute and speak something. Okay, so there are at least two technologies, two platforms on which you can do this. So I generally do it on my company's website, uh, which is over here. I've gone ahead, I've clicked on this new project. Let me walk you through it. I've called it full stack dev. I'm going to call it 2 because that repository already exists. Public visibility will make it public for everybody. I don't want that. I want it only accessible by you guys. So I'm going to create a private repository, and I'm going to select version control as Git, and process can be anything because our application is very simple. I generally switch to agile a little later, and I click the create button. When I do that, there is an entry that is going to appear over here, and I'm going to choose full stack dev for our discussion. And now I can click on invite button, enter your email IDs here, and then you're going to join this team. Inside this theme, you're going to see multiple options. The most important option, important option from saving your work is called repositories. So if I click on this, it is going to come here and it is going to give me an option of creating a repository on my computer. So this link is very important. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Now, for some reason, I have almost always done all of my development work on the C drive. So let me go ahead and pull up a command line tool. Right, so I am going to switch to C drive, and for the purpose of our training for like 8-9 weeks, I have created a folder called demo. If I create ls here, this is what I'm going to see. Now these are some test things that I was creating. I don't need that, so I'm going to delete all of that. So I'm going to run a command called rm-rf. Now if you're doing it on Windows, this command might not work. It is only going to work on this particular command prompt, or if you're based on Linux. So go ahead, open it in Explorer, and you can manually delete it. But then this is the command. Alright, because I have it open on multiple folders, let me go ahead and I have it open on multiple platforms. I'm going to close out of this, and hopefully I'm not open anywhere else. Alright, so it is because of Visual Studio Code that I was not able to delete it. But alright, now that it is gone, I'm going to go ahead and create a directory, demo. I'm going to go inside demo, and remember the link that we had copied. I'm going to paste that link here. I'm going to call git init, and I'm going to press the dot button. Dot indicates the current directory. I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to say git clone. Probably just not going to work. Alright, so the first important command for today is git clone. You can go ahead and create a clone of your own repository, or if you want, let me show you another way of doing this. There is a website called github.com. Pretty simple, pretty easy. I want you to come here and create an account, and inside this I have another organization. I can come here, I can create a repository here, and I can call it, say once again, full stack dev. I have that created already. Let me go ahead and enter full stack dev 2, and with this, notice the commands that are needed to set up on your computer. Okay, so once you copy this and if you run it in the browser, your machine will be all set. Let me go ahead and run this command ls. I'm going to go inside full stack dev, and I'm going to hit the so dir command is going to list down everything. So dir command is going to list down the files that are available inside this. I generally use ls. Ls is available on Linux and inside this particular command prompt window that I have. And then if you want to install this, once again, I'll take you to this old way of installing software. To go install, it is called cmder. Alright, and it is going to install the same command prompt version that I have on your computer as well. So out of the two tools that we were trying to install, we are done with Visual Studio Code, and we are done with GitHub, and we have set up a folder structure for working on our assignments. So let me show you a couple of other commands. The command is called git status. I'm going to press Ctrl L. It is going to clear up the screen and move everything at the top. Git status, and it is saying that I'm on branch called master, and there are no commits at the moment, and when you commit, it is going to become more permanent. Now if you're not following along, that is fine. A branch is this thing that you're working on a feature, and for that feature you have created a branch. If you're going to work on feature number 2, you're going to create a new branch, and then this is the word that we discussed. But then branch is not something specific to your own computer. Branch is something that can be present on the central Git repository as well, and master is a branch on this. So once you're done coding on your computer, you think that you are done, you don't have any more work to do, it is fairly ready for the client to see, you can go ahead and you can push it on master. And I'm going to show you a real quick, but before that, let me go ahead and add a couple of files. And at this point, I'm going to launch Visual Studio Code with this particular folder. There are multiple ways of doing that. The way that I like the most is you come into the command prompt, type code, and press the dot button. The dot button indicates current folder, and then this folder is going to open up inside Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to press enter, and notice how it has launched Visual Studio Code with the full stack dev folder present here. Alright, now that we are in this tool, let me go ahead and introduce this tool to you. Visual Studio Code is one of the most amazing editors that I have seen available in the market. Now, I've mostly restricted myself to Visual Studio because I had been doing .NET development all along. But then if you are going to do any editing work, I would want you to move away from the classic Notepad, which is this. And some people have Notepad++, Edit+. I've used those, but then Visual Studio Code is I think a lot powerful. There are multiple options available over here. This is called the Explorer section. The files that are open here, they're going to appear over in this section. Then the current folder is going to appear on this section. In the outline, the current document that is open here, it is represented in a structured way, like a tree that appears over here, and timeline is something that I am not familiar with. Okay, so this little plus button here is going to add a file. This is going to add a folder, and then if you go to say your browser window, let me go ahead and open that. So I am in. So this is what the folder structure on Windows Explorer looks like. So I'm in C drive demo full stack developer, and then if I come here and if I add a new file, say text file, demo.txt, if I switch back to Visual Studio Code, it is going to show that file over here. Make sense? But I don't want that, and in some cases when you're not seeing this file or it is not refreshing, you can force refresh it and it is going to appear over here. So let's go ahead and create a folder called dev01, day01, and most of our work we're going to do in this folder today. I can right click on this folder and add a new file, and there are a couple of other interesting features. I generally use it to reveal in File Explorer, and from there I can directly launch into the Explorer window also. For now, I'm going to just add a new file, and I'm going to call it demo.html, and I'm going to hit the enter button. Right now, let's jump back to our original intention of what we wanted to do with Git. I wanted to show you a command called git status. All right, and notice something in the output. So when I type git status and press enter, it is going to show that there are untracked files that are available over here, and it appears in red. What I have to do now is I have to do git add dot, and then by now you understand the dot is the current folder. So everything that is untracked, I want to get added to my local branch, and I'm going to hit enter. And then once I do that, now notice the output of the git status command. Now it is saying that there is a new file that it has added, day01 demo.html. Alright, earlier it was in red, now it is in green, and it is saying that it has been added to the local staging folder. So when you press add, the work that you have done for your project, it is staged, and the way to stage changes for being pushed to the changes made permanent is that you run another command called git commit, and then commit requires a comment, so you provide -m option and you say initial code, and then you hit enter, and then this code has been committed. Now it is still available after commit. It is available as a branch or as a version on your computer, but then it is not available for everybody else to look at. So the trick, so the way to do that is you come here and you run a command called git push. All right, and then if I hit push, this command is not going to work. It is going to give me an error, and I'm going to use that error for running my next command. All right, So this has kind of worked, and then the code has been pushed on the internet on Azure, SASM Full Stack Dev inside this particular folder. Let's go ahead and verify that. So I'm once again in the browser in this window, and I'm now going to, under repos, I'm going to click on the files option, and notice the work that we were doing on my computer is now available over here. All right. These tricks are extremely essential because the work that I'm doing, I'm going to check in every time. Uh, when you create your folder, your work, you're going to have to create your own branches and uh, save your work on the internet and share with other people. This is something that you will require. This is not as daunting or as confusing as you might be thinking right now. There are very few commands that you will have to run. Some to get data from the computer, or from your computer to the server, and from server to your computer. And these are the three commands that you are going to run multiple times. One is called git add. I'm not going to run it. Generally, you select the entire folder. I'm going to hit Control C, and that is going to skip it. The second command is git commit -m, and then you put some comments here. Uh, I'm not going to run this as well. And then probably you're going to do git push. If this fails, you're going to see an error message. Just copy the command in the error message and run that, and that is going to work as well. So most of the time, you're only going to do this: git add, git commit, and git push. And then if push is putting the commands on the server, or your files on the server, to pull files from the server, you're going to run the other command, which is called git pull. All right. So to take the copy from the server back on your computer, you're going to do git pull. All right. So make yourself comfortable with Git, and because you're going to have to use this a lot in most of your jobs. Uh, moving back to Visual Studio, um, this is how we create file. This is how we create folder. This is how we organize data. Uh, Now, what makes Visual Studio extremely powerful is its ability to have to install multiple extensions. Now, I have a couple of extensions installed on my computer already, but we are going to table that discussion for now, and we are going to jump to the core topic for today, which was HTML. All right, so I'm moving this up. All right, so one thing that probably I should teach you at this point is when you are in online sessions, your presence and your way of explaining things to people, it is very important. And then the way I would do that is uh, I would want to have a very active chat bar in our classroom sessions, in our live sessions. Uh, the way to do that is you if you are feeling something, or if you have any question, or if you have any comments or any answer, you can come to this chat bar and you can start typing your answers here. Uh, but then this appears very blunt, very confusing, and then everybody is going to see the same thing. So I want you to go to Microsoft Teams, and then click on this format button, and then experiment with these fonts, with these colors over here, and then pick a theme for yourself. So I'm going to say I like Italian, I like underlines, and I don't want strike through. I want the font size to be medium, and blue is my favorite color, so I'm going to choose blue, and I'm going to say hello everyone. I'm going to hit the send button. All right, so I want you to go ahead in the chat bar now and try to experiment with some font and just send some message back. All right, so in the chat bar now, I hope you all have joined from computer and you have this option available. Right, I see multiple people typing. All right, excellent. So now that you have probably hopefully chosen your theme, your font color, uh, uh, help me answer this question. What is HTML? And then I expect that you know some of these technologies. All right. In the chat bar, tell me what is HTML? What does it stand for, and what does it mean? All right. So Nitin says it is hypertext markup language. I'm going to copy that answer. Thank you so much, Nitin, and I'm going to paste it here. It is called the hypertext markup language. Thank you so much. But what does hypertext markup language mean? What does markup mean, and what does language mean? Right. So for the purpose of this course, I'm going to go ahead and start dividing these things, and I'm going to show you another very interesting thing, my interesting trick of trying to answer these questions. Uh, there is something called as hypertext, there's something called as markup, and there's something called as not this, I don't want this. There's something called as language. A language is an expression that we speak, that we say, and then we try to make sense out of things. So this word is pretty straightforward. It is figured out, and we don't have to worry about this word as much. So this is okay. Uh, there are two words that I would want to understand from this discussion. What is markup and what is hypertext, right? And then if you don't know the answer, this is where I'm going to turn to Google again, and I'm going to ask Google that explain those things to me. So I'm going to search and do a Google of markup meaning, and then this is what Google says: the amount added to the cost price of goods to cover overheads and profits. All right, so it is a number, a markup of 50%. 50% means you were manufacturing something for 50, you added 50% to it, which is 25, and then you are selling it for 75. So let's jump back and put that equation over here, that there is a cost, there is a markup, and together they make the sale price, right? Now the question is, why would we add markup? Because this markup is going to give us profit, right? All right, so what would that mean in a programming language or in a language like HTML? What kind of profit are we expecting from this, right? So let's go ahead and look at the roots of hypertext markup language. So HTML is a child of another language called the XML. All right. In the chat bar, tell me what is XML. All right. I'm hoping at least a couple of answers. Extended markup language, pretty close. It is extensible markup language. All right. So generally, a language is very limited. Like English has only so many words, Hindi has only so many words. They are not extensible. Uh, an extensible language is a language in which you can create words. That is my name on the screen, Zia. But then, if I ask you, why are you sharing this name with me? Would you have an answer for this, right? I mean, what is the intention of this? I mean, what is Zia? Zia could be a lot of things, and it is written here, but then I don't understand what exactly you are trying to say. But then compare this first set of data with this second set of data, where I'm going to say author, Zia, and author. All right. Now, if I ask you who is Zia or what is Zia, you have an answer, and that answer is that he is an author. And how did that happen? That happened because we added uh, a markup to the original data. Right? Initially, it was just data; it was just sitting there by itself. But then that data did not make any sense to us. With a markup added, we have some benefit, some profit, that it is the information has started making sense to us. In the XML terminologies, this thing is called a tag, and this entire thing is called an element. Make sense? Okay, but then I'm not happy with this. Author Zia is not enough for me probably. So I'm going to do something else. I'm going to do author, and I'm going to come to a new line, head a few spaces. I'm going to type first name, and then inside this I'm going to say Zia, and I'm going to end first name, and I'm going to say author again. Now Zia is the first name of the author. Uh, how does that help? So the information that we had, it was not enough in the beginning. In the second case, it gave just some idea about it, and in the second case, it added some more information to us for making sense of that data. That Zia is the first name of the author. Probably there are other information that you would want to share about me, like my address, right? And I live in Pune, so uh, I'm going to place the address tag, and then you would know that uh, the author is his name is Zia, and then he lives in Pune, right? But probably even that is not enough. So I'm going to say that on what part of the city he lives in, and then I'm going to have the city name. I'm going to close that. I'm going to have the street name, on what street he's available. I'm probably also going to put a contact number over here inside this. Now notice that as we are adding more and more tags to the already available data, or around the data, the information that we had, which was probably only uh, sitting there by itself, like Pune, he lives in camp, the contact number is say 12345, right? This information by itself in this section does not make as much sense. But then that same information, uh, when put in a tag, start making sense to us. And then as we add more and more tags, that information is getting more and more interesting for us. So with that, this is a very brief, very minute introduction of the extensible markup language. But then HTML is created with almost the same intention. In HTML, there are tags that we are going to add. There's a markup that we are going to add because we are going to make some profit through those tags. And then that profit is that the information that we have, that information should make sense to the recipient. All right, whoever that information is getting transferred to, they should make some sense out of that data. Now, coming to the last word, hypertext. What does hypertext mean? All right. So you can put it in the chat window, or if you don't know the answer, once again, I'm going to go to a dictionary and I'm going to start looking for hypertext. Now, hypertext, a software system allowing extensive cross-referencing. All right. So the keyword for me here is cross-referencing between related sections of text. All right. There are sections of text that are related to each other and they are associated in graphic material. All right, so it is cross-referencing, means one section could link to another section, one document could connect to another document, and then it could get very graphic sometimes. Uh, right now, if I come here and if I say type uh, h1 and Zia, this is not going to do anything. This is just some dead text sitting in some dead document. But uh, but if it is a hypertext markup language document, right, this text is going to have special meaning. So let's go ahead and write our first program. I'm going to type Zia here and I'm going to save this, and let's go to alright, so I created a demo.html file, and then let me go ahead and open this file. Alright, so this file is just displaying Zia. But then what hypertext says is that very soon, if you start putting information in tags, these tags are going to start making sense for you. They are going to get very let me go ahead and look up the definition one more time. Markup meaning, I think I lost it. Hypertext meaning, right? So hypertext is going to get graphic a little. So when I put Zia inside an H1 tag and hit the save button and go back to my document, and if I hit the refresh button, notice that that text is appearing a little differently. Through this tag here, through the tag H1, uh, I have communicated something to the browser that the information inside this tag is to be represented differently, and that differently for this particular thing means it is going to appear a little bigger. Uh, there is another tag called the anchor tag, and on href it is going to do something. So uh, I'm going to type a URL here, right? And if I hit this and hit the save button and come here and refresh this page again, I'm going to see something. If I come here and refresh this page, all right, I see consistency, and if I click on this, it is going to go ahead and open this particular website, right? So this is the second section of this particular document, which is saying that there is a lot of cross-referencing. Okay, so from one document you can reference another document on the internet, right? Or probably in the same page, or probably on the same website, and that material is going to get very graphic. So with that, uh, we what we have done so far is that we have tried to make sense out of HTML as to what HTML is, what its roots are, and how different style of text they are connected and how they react in the browser. What we do through HTML is that we use multiple tags. H1 is just one tag. We use multiple tags to communicate information, the data that we have, to the browser so that that browser can react or represent to that particular document in a different way. So these are some of the tags that are coming to my mind right now. There is something called as body, there is something called as main, there is a section, there is an article, there is p tag, there is a span tag, right? What else? There is a UL and LI tag. They generally come in pair. There's UL OL tag, which is also another way of listing things. What else? There is something called as div. All right, so these are some of the tags that I've used. There are a lot more tags, like there's something called as address, there's something called as aside, there's something called as nav for navigation. So let's go ahead and try to see a structure of an HTML document. And for that, give me one moment, please. All right, so all right, so an HTML document could have multiple sections to it. The general one difference or one thing that I would want to highlight at this point is that XML, the reason it is called extensible is that there is no restriction on the type of tag that you have. Once you can have an author, in one document you can have a tag called author, and you can fill in with the tags with flexibility based on the data that you want to represent. But if you have some other information, such as say you're talking about movies, you can create a movies tag. Inside movies tag, you can create a single movie, and then inside that movie can have a title to it. All right. uh, XML does not enforce any restrictions on to the kind of or the number of tags that you can have inside it, but HTML is a little focused, and HTML says that each HTML document or each HTML file should have a specific order. It always starts with HTML and it closes with HTML. Now, before this, there are things that you can write, such as doc type, which is going to communicate the intention of this document to the XML formatters and probably browsers. And based on this information, browser can make a special um, understanding of the tags that are there in this document. But each HTML document is going to they are a little forgiving, but then they should begin with HTML at first, and then it is definitely going to have two tags. One is the head tag, and the head tag is going to close. The second tag is the body tag. Now, a head tag is where you're going to put all of the information that are related to the general structure of the application, how it is supposed to pull in information from other website, what styling that you are applying to it, what JavaScript file you are applying to it. But then body is generally what appears on the screen. And there are better ways I can explain this to you, but then what I would prefer is I take you to some website, which is Amazon.com. All right. So this is a website. This has HTML inside, and then HTML is probably running inside, is the language that is running inside the browser. The way to see how they have created this website is I'm going to come and press the F12 key, and then inside F12, I'm going to go to the elements tag, and then this is where this entire website is present in the form of a collection of HTML tags. Now, let's look at the outside element. It is called HTML, and it has multiple elements already present inside it. Okay, I'm not going to go into the details as to what this information is, but the HTML tag has a couple of information already present here. Then there is a head tag, and there's a body tag, and then after the body tag, the document kind of closes. All right, let's go ahead and open up the head tag and see what they have inside their head. They have something called as script. Now, I'm pretty sure that all of you have heard the programming language named JavaScript, and then this is a way of including a JavaScript file inside your HTML document. Another script, which means that inside head you can have multiple script tags. Can you have multiple head tags? My answer probably is no. Can we have multiple body tags? Probably no. One question that probably would come to you is that, are these tags case sensitive? I have found out multiple mixed things about this, and some say that it is case sensitive, some say it is case insensitive, but then it is always recommended that all of your tag should always be small case all the time. All right, so head appears only once, body appears only once, but inside head you can have multiple repeating script tags. There is something called as meta tag, and then meta is a Greek or Latin word, and then it means that you are denoting something, you are talking about referring to itself. All right, so meta tags, they are tags which are explaining more information, more details about a document itself. Link is going to link two things. It is linking the images link to this particular document. We'll have to figure out what DNS prefetch does. But then there's another script tag, link tag. I'm looking for some other interesting tag. Okay, link style sheet, and it is connecting to a fancy looking href name. Style sheet is how a website gets its colors and themes from. So they have another link tag. Okay, so multiple link tags are allowed, and then the relation is to be mentioned. So as we scroll down, we're going to see something, and then if I come to the title tag, I'm going to see Amazon.com, online shopping for electronics, and then if you hover over it, this is what you're seeing here as well. So the information that we see in this title bar, they come from the title tag here. Now you can come here and then you can start playing with it, and I'm going to enter my name, and then it looks kind of cool, right? That on Amazon it is my name here. So you can come here and you can start playing inside the elements tag of any website, and you can fool around with this. There is another meta tag, there are link tags with different relationship mentioned. So this is what a general uh, head tag looks like. A couple of scripts included, a couple of links defined, a couple of meta tags defined, and a title defined. So let's come to our document and let's fix our document a little. I'm going to come here and type HTML, and I'm going to close this. And then it has automatically completed that tag for me. Inside this, I'm going to come and add the head tag. Inside the head tag, I'm going to come and type the title tag, and I'm going to say day 01 demo. All right, so far I had opened the HTML file from my document itself. Now the reason it is not showing anything is because we have modified this file, and then but if you notice, the title of this thing has changed, and it is what we have entered here in the title tag inside the head. I want you to introduce to another concept before we move on when we talk about we talk about HTML in more detail, and that is called as a web server, web browser probably, or the web in general. Okay, so what I want to mention is that the way things run is that you are accessing a lot of things from your computer. You're going to come over here and you're going to enter a website name, and then that website is going to launch an application, and then that application is probably a browser like Google Chrome. By the way, if you don't have Google Chrome, you can install it using the same trick that I showed you, and then this document here through this computer is going to connect to something on the internet. Right now, on the internet, on the other side of the fence, there is another computer which has the HTML file. Right, when you enter this particular link, uh, you will have to know the IP address of this particular computer, so that your computer, that is 192.168 something, it can establish that communication, and then that response should come back. Right, the way it does that is through a service called as a domain name server. Now this domain name server has a listing of um, the website and a mapping of their IP address. So once you enter this, the router that you have on your computer, on your cell phones, it is going to try to connect to the internet, and it's going to say that, hey, I want to get to this website. Do you have the IP address for that? And then generally, that IP address, if it is not available, it is somehow going to try and make a connection with a DNS server. Um, with each hop, probably this is your router. With each hop, it is going to ask, hey, give me the IP address for this particular domain name. And then if it is not available, it is going to say that, hey, I don't know, I don't have the IP address, but then I know somebody who might. And then it's going to pass it to somebody else, and then probably this is your internet service provider. And then if they don't have it, probably they're going to reach out to a DNS server, and then DNS server probably is going to have a listing of most of the website, all the websites with their names and with their IP address. So with this result, the response is going to return back, and that's how your browser is going to figure out that it is available on this particular website. On this side of the fence, there is a software that is running, and it is called the um, server. And then the job of a server is to cater to incoming requests. So when we requested, say, day01.html, this is sitting on our computer, and then we would want to return this as a response. But then for this, the server has to start listening to an IP address through a special software. That software, depending on what operating system you are on, or um, right software that you have installed, it could be IIS, it could be Apache, it could be uh, some reverse proxy servers that can sit here, and then they can start returning responses for on your behalf to this particular thing. Probably you can create a server of your own using Node.js, and they're going to start responding to these documents. What we are doing in this example is that we are opening a file that is present on our document. Uh, we would want to have some form of server-like functionality, and then this is where Visual Studio becomes very, very, very powerful. I'm going to jump to the extension section and I'm going to type live server. Now, live server is an extension that is present over here, and I've already gone ahead and installed this. So I'm going to click on this. It is already installed, but I have disabled it. I'm going to come here and alright, I'm so sorry. I have it enabled already, and for some reason I'm not able to get it to working. So let me disable it, reload it, and I'm going to search for it again. Live server. I'm going to enable it, and once I enable it and go to my document, notice that there is something called as go live. If I click on this button, now it has launched a server, an IP address with a port in the correct folder, and it is showing something. Now I'm going to extract out this document and I'm going to hit a key option on my computer. It is the Windows key. I'm going to hold it and I'm going to hit the right button. Once I do that, it kind of tucks itself to the right corner of the screen. I'm going to do the same thing and I'm going to tuck it on this on the left side. Now uh, I can live with a shorter browser, so I'm going to shrink this a little and I'm going to get some more space for my Visual Studio window. Alright, so the live server is on. As I'm making changes, they are going to reflect here. So let's go ahead and change that to day 02. If I hit save, notice that it refreshed automatically and it changed to day 02. This is going to come in handy as we are building application, but it has also solved our one problem. We don't need a computer on the internet where our day 01 file is copied. In fact, it has created the server right inside our computer. So we have something very local going on here, and instead of some funny IP like 1.1.1.1, it is listening on our local host IP, which is 127.0.0.1, and it is returning to our requests. Make sense? So the live server is an extension of Visual Studio Code that is starting something within Visual Studio Code, and it is catering to our page asks on this particular IP, this particular port number. Uh, we have already added the title tag. Let's go ahead and add a body to it. And let me also pull this. All right. So we have a body tag, the body tag closed. Inside the body, we had seen the head section of Amazon. We have not seen the body section of Amazon.com. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to scroll all the way up. I'm going to collapse head. I'm going to expand body, and I'm going to start looking at body. So the first tag that I see is div, and notice that as I am hovering on these elements, the section on the screen, it kind of grays out a little or blues out a little, right? So when I hover on div, the selection on the browser is changing. As I move mouse to other elements, that selection is kind of going away. Notice that there are script tags allowed in body as well. Alright, so HTML allows putting script tag, multiple script tag inside body as well, and then one tag that you can add is called div. Let's keep scrolling down. Another div. Let's keep scrolling down. Another div. Alright, so there are at least 3 divs right inside the body tag and a couple of HTML pages. This looks like the entire page, so I'm going to expand this. And then inside div, I have another script tag. So script tag probably can be present under any tag. Right? Moving down, I see when there is no script, you do this. And then this is a little interesting. So div, nav, up, nav, and something. I'm going to expand that, and there's nothing over here. Okay. Then there is something called as header. Alright, and then when I hover over header, notice the section that is getting highlighted in the browser window. Right, it is a top section with all the links, Amazon, the search button, the shopping cart, login, logout button. Alright, so it is called the header, and if I go inside the header, I see another div. Alright, if I go inside div, I see a lot of divs. Alright, there is something called as belt, but then notice that that section has kind of reduced and it has It is not the same thing as header. So header has at least two divs, one div at the top, which is the belt, and one div that is not present, second div, third div, and there is nav main. Alright, this is where we have the main links of the application, and it is created over here. So there is nav left, there is nav fill, and there is a nav right. Okay, so notice how they are dividing their section into different categories, and then each section has its own script and its own hyperlinks. So the A tag is for hyperlink, and its href is a JavaScript tag. We're going to talk about that in a short while, but notice the arrangement of these tags. That there's a div, there's a div, there's a div, and then there are a bunch of A tags. So A. All right. So what we have seen so far is that there is a header tag. Let's see what is present under header. There's a hyperlink that we cannot see. Then there is another div called the page content. Right inside the page content, what I see is a bunch of div off screen, and then desktop view. If I go inside desktop view, there is another div, another div, another div, and a lot more divs. Okay, so as you scroll through this document, okay, new tag, I see something called as span. All right, so HTML is organization of these tags inside their parent element, and it is through these parent elements that uh, a document gets created, right? So our document should also look almost very similar. I'm going to come here and I'm going to type header. I'm going to close that. Then I'm going to come over here and I can put a div tag. But then I'm not a very big fan of this. I would probably use some other tag called the main tag. Inside the main tag, I'm going to put something called as a section tag. Inside a section tag, I'm going to put another tag called as an article tag. Uh, Under section, I'm going to put another tag called the aside tag. I'm going to launch this thing. I'm going to come back to this window. I'm going to hit Control S, and then when I hit Control S, nothing appears. Why is that? Let me come to the article section. I'm going to put an H2, and I'm going to type my first article, right? And then my first article appears. Why is that, right? So there's no effect of having main and section and article, but then H2 all of a sudden starts appearing on the screen. And then the point that I'm trying to make is that HTML has two types of tags. Had my document been only this one line, I'm going to cut it, I'm going to select everything, I'm going to delete, and I'm going to paste this and save it again, right? What changed in the output? Absolutely nothing. It's the same output as when we were over here, correct? When I refresh, if my document is like this or only this single line, the output is exactly the same. And this leads to our next discussion point, that is called semantic tags and syntactic tag. Semantics, I forgot the word for the other one, probably it is a data tag or something else. But then a lot of HTML is a semantic tag. Now, semantic relates to meaning of something. All right, it is about how you want to organize your information. Do they mean anything to the browser? Probably something, but then they are not going to be represented on the screen. I'm going to go back and try to figure out what the other tags are called. But then we saw that the H1 H2 tag that we put on the browser, it was rendering things on screen, so it was drawing things on screen, correct? But these tags here, like the body tag, the section tag, they did not have any effect on this thing. And this is where another subject called SEO is going to come in picture. Do you guys know what SEO is? In the chat bar. So it is the search engine optimization. So any website that we create, the website is going to get crawled by a search engine like Google. And then when search engines they read through your website, these are the tags that they look for. They look for what are the means, what is the main part of your application. What is a section? What is an article inside your application? What are some of the headings that you're using? Now, uh, the reason these are important is because this is what is going to help the websites that you create have better processing done by the search engine optimization engines like Google, and this is what is going to influence your website appearing on the internet because you have organized your data a little differently. All right, so I see something in the chat bar. Probably SEO answer. All right, so SEO is search engine optimization. One of the tricks of doing SEO is that you put things in the right tag. But then if you don't put things in the right tag, that is not going to affect a lot of things. That is not going to change anything. The output is still going to be same, but your results they are not going to be effective. Another thing, another point that came to my mind is that with cell phones and browsers, a lot of people are using it. There's something called as a screen reader. If you're not heard of it, a screen reader is something that is going to read the information on your browser screen, and all right, and then uh, it is going to come in handy for people with some impairment. So if somebody can't see and they would still want to read, they would have a screen reader installed on their thing. And then if you tell the screen reader to read the main article of the application, if you are using only divs in your application, the screen reader is going to have some challenges. But then if you are putting it inside main, that screen reader is going to work well. And then um, in some countries, it is government law, government mandate that you create an application that is accessible by visually impaired people as well. And that's when you will have to include these tags. This is one of the techniques of doing that, or add some form of support for visually impaired people inside your application. Now, each of these tags, they have special meaning, and let me go ahead and try to pull that information uh, for you real quick. All right, so let's look at this information. Right? There's a tag called the base tag, and then base tag is something that you put in the head, and then all the links in your document, they are going to be referenced with reference to uh, this. So I'm going to put base tag here, and base tag has an element, an attribute called href. What I've just added here, we know what a tag is, but then a tag has a second section and it is called the attribute. So an attribute is more detail or some inside information about that particular thing. Now, base href slash means that all the links that I'm going to add to my document, they are going to be evaluated from this particular folder on. I just wanted to talk about attributes here. I'm going to explain what base is in more detail as we make progress along the course. Uh, then there is something called as link. Link is with the relationship tag. Meta is explaining the document itself. There's something called as style. It is used for styling the document, and title appears in the navigation bar. There is another. Let me go ahead. All right. So this section is called content section. So the tag that I was looking for, it is not data, it is content. Let me go ahead and correct that. So it is not data tag, it is the content tag. Okay, I'm going to put in another section of information. This is another pair of tags that are there. All right. An address tag. An address tag is very specifically putting an address information. Uh, they are generally hyperlinks like ahref, and then you can put telephone number over here. They can probably You can probably put email address over here. So address is a way of putting contact information. An article, if you read through, is a self-contained composition. All right. A side is a side note that appears generally in newspapers. So if you've seen a newspaper section, something like this, that there's a main article going on here, and then on the side there's a little tag about something that is going on, some celebrities' pictures, and then some information. This information is supposed to be put in the aside tag, and then this outside information is supposed to be put inside an article or inside a section, right? Uh, so what HTML essentially is offering through these tags is way of categorizing information on your page into different sections so that those sections start making sense to the browser readers, and to other fellow developers. Uh, all right, so there are header tags. Inside header, we are once again going to put elements that are introductory and that are navigational aids. So it is going to help you navigate around the document. There are a bunch of header tags, h1 through h6. There's a main tag, there's a navigation tag, there's a nav tag. This nav tag specifically is going to have information related to navigation on the page. And then there is a section tag, and then a section tag is once again it's a generic standalone section, and it is for categorizing your application or your browser page. Uh, then there are elements which are text containers. So I'm going to pull that real quick on our screen. Give me one moment. All right. So there's something called as block quote, and then you might have, if you want to quote somebody, say Gandhi or some Mother Teresa, you would want to put it in block quote. Once again, they are not going to have any presence on the screen like an H1, H2 tag. The text is appearing, but then they are going to be helpful for screen readers and SEOs. There's something called a DD tag, there's a div tag, there's a DL tag. A div tag is another way of categorizing elements, logically connected elements together in one section. HR is going to draw a horizontal line, a line break, a paragraph break in your application. LI is a list item, OL is an ordered list item, P is a paragraph tag, pre is a prefix, a pre-element, pre-formatted element, and then UL is the unordered list element. Okay, so let's go ahead and see an example of most of these things. So I'm going to start with the main tag, and then I am pretty okay, so I've copied some code, and I'm going to come to our application, and inside body I'm going to paste this. Okay, let me go ahead and increase the screen size. Alright, so in the body there is a main tag. The role is another attribute that is present over here, and then it has two paragraph tags. Now if I hit the save button and go back to this page here, alright, after I hit refresh, it should have happened already. Disposing. Alright, so now when I hit save button, it is going to automatically refresh. So notice that these two lines from the main section, they appear over here. So this is a paragraph tag inside a main flow. Why would you want to use this? Is because main is the main content of the application. You would want to communicate that intent through this particular tag. A section is a little more interesting. You don't want to put P directly inside main. What you would actually want to do is you want to add a section to it. And then inside section, you can add multiple elements. uh, each section is supposed to have at least one header tag, and there are like 6 header tags: h1, h2, h3, h4, h5, h6. I'm going to settle with h1, and that is going to complete the tag, and then I'm going to call it main section. And then after this, inside this, you can have your parameter tags. Notice how as I'm typing these tags, they are getting automatically completed because I have installed a few extensions. And then that extension name, if I look up, all right, it is called tag helpers, HTML tag helpers. All right. Uh, let me go ahead and talk about a couple of HTML extensions. Uh, so sometimes if you end up using a wrong tag and you want to correct it, a tag helper like this. Let me go ahead and disable this first. If I want to change this to h2, notice that it automatically changed this part as well. But then, all right, so I've removed that. Now if I change it to h1, it is not going to get completed, right? So the reason Visual Studio Code is so powerful is because it has a lot of extensions available, and those extensions they help you write documents in a better way, in a neater way. So I'm going to come here and add an extension called tag helper, auto rename tag. I'm going to come here. You can click install. It is already installed on my machine, and I'm going to enable it. Once I enable it, it's going to require a reload probably. If not, notice that a lot of things are going to get extremely easy for me now. Like I changed this to h1. This was already h2, so it remained h2. But then if I want to change section, I was like, hey, this is not the right name. I would want to change it to article. Notice that article is getting auto completed with the right matching tag over here. All right. So this extension is going to come in handy. Uh, with that, there are a couple of other extensions like you notice these icons here. There is something called as theme icon finder, material icon theme. The material icon theme is going to set different icons for different kind of files that you created. So CSS is going to appear like this, C# code is going to appear like this, HTML is somewhere over here, CDEFGH, probably down below over here. So all these file types, they have different icons that are created, and those icons, they are going to appear better if you come here and install this particular extension. And then sometimes these things can get extremely powerful. Let me go ahead and finish with a list of a few other tags, and then I'm going to show it to you. Let's change this back to section. Inside section, we have HTML tag, and we have a p tag, and inside p tag we can add multiple lines of text. I'm going to add another section. I'm going to hit tab, and over here I'm going to display the UL tag. The UL tag is a list, and then the bullet items that appear, those items can appear over here. So I'm going to say item 1. Now Visual Studio Code has another option, Shift, Alt and down arrow. It is going to repeat those things for you. So I've pressed Shift, the Alt key and the down arrow, and it has repeated those lines for me. So I'm going to come over here, 4, 5, I'm going to hit the save button. And then now if I go to this document, it's my go live not working. Right, notice that the main section through the h2 part, the random text that we entered inside p, and those 5 items through ul. So what I would recommend you guys is that through some documentation, through these documentation, you can read about what each tag is and how to use those tags, and look at their effect inside a browser window. what I want to demonstrate for the rest of this course, for the last 10-20 minutes that we have for today, is how to create an application like this. And then if you look at the volume of this particular file here, it is pretty big. It is massive, right? And uh, it would be a lot of work to type so much, and then we would want some productivity, some better way, some efficient way of doing this. And for that, there is another extension, and it is called Emmet. Okay. Uh, uh, did I already show the live server, the one that appears here? So, all right. So another extension that we are going to show is Emmet, and I have this installed already on my computer. And then this is an extremely powerful tool to generate a powerful or a lot of code very quick. I'm not going to keep typing all the HTML tags and then close them and then move to next line like this. I'm going to try a simple syntax, a different syntax, and that syntax is going to generate a lot of code for me. So I'm going to start with HTML. Now I know that inside HTML there is one tag called head. So I'm going to type HTML, a greater than sign, then head, and I'm going to hit the tab key. And notice how it has created the entire HTML that I required for this particular page. uh, but this is not enough. Probably I need body tag as well. So let me go ahead, put another greater than sign and body tag, and I hit enter. Uh, is this correct? No, right? Because body is supposed to appear under the head tag. So I'm going to undo this, and I'm going to change this greater than sign to a plus sign. Right? And I'm going to hit tab again and type body, and I'm going to hit tab again, and notice that it is HTML head and then body is present over here. But now that I understand that I can generate a series of tags under each other, below each other, I can get creative with it. Inside body, I want a header tag. Right next to a header, I want the main section. Right inside the main section, I want at least three. Inside the main tag, I want at least three sections. So can I go ahead and create this 3 times, and then if you use asterisk and if you enter a number 3 here, it is going to do that. So let's go ahead and put a tab and see what it does for us. Right, so HTML head, body, header, main, and inside main there are sections. All right, let's get creative with it. Inside each section, I want a p tag, and then this is where parentheses come in picture. So inside a section, I have a p tag, and then I'm going to put 3 here. I'm going to hit enter. So it is adding a p tag inside each section. I'm going to undo, and I'm going to say that, you know what, inside p tag, I want a text, and then that text is say hello world. I don't know if that is going to come in. It is not coming, so probably I cannot put that text that I want here, but there is another extension for that, and that extension is called lorem. I'm going to give you all these names. I have it disabled at the moment. I'm going to come here. I'm going to Alright, so it is enabled, it is installed. I'm going to come here, and inside p tag I'm going to type lorem. Then I'm going to go to the end, type 3 again, and hit enter. And then notice that the p tag is populated with some text. Make sense? Now this text is pretty big. I don't want that big of a text. I want only 10 words. So I'm going to put 10 here, and I'm going to hit tab. I'm going to put tab, and then notice that it has created 3 p tags, and then they each have exactly 10 words inside it. Okay, so HTML development inside Visual Studio Code is extremely straightforward. Now you can get very creative with it, but then these options, they are extremely tricky to remember, and then even I don't remember all of those tags. So one thing that I've learned is that as you are learning technology, you should always do one quick Google. You should always Google for such things. My keyword is cheat sheet. So I've Googled something called Emmet cheat sheet, and I've pressed enter, and then look at this document here. Alright, so this is the Emmet cheat sheet, every possible combination that you would want to try of that application is going to appear over here. So there is something called as child element, and then if you put a greater than sign, it is going to create a child element. So nav ul li is going to create this. If you want sibling like head and body, they sit right next to each other. They're going to sit next to each other with a plus sign. If you want to go back up and then change something there, you want to climb up with a caret sign, the one available on number 6. If you want to group things together, the way we did it for section NP and lorem, you put it in the parentheses. If you want to do multiple repeat of that thing, this is what you can do. So let's go ahead and copy this, paste inside our application uh, over here. I'm going to hit the P tab. I'm going to hit tab, and it is generating the entire content for us. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and look at this document and then try and generate these combinations. So if I hit tab, it is going to generate all of this element, and then live server doesn't kind of work when there is no head and body, so you will always need head and body. So let me go ahead and add that as well. Head, and then inside head I want body, and then inside body we would do this. All right, now probably if I save this and come to our document and refresh, it is giving us 5 empty elements. Another trick that I can show you is that if you come to these windows, hold the Alt key and the Shift key and make a selection, you can start typing on all 5 lines over here. And if I hit save and go back to the browser window, it is going to appear over here. Right now, with this, we can have some live experience of as we are editing, the browser window is getting refreshed. Okay, so one quick thing that I would want to show you before we end our session for today is inside body. I'll put an h1 tag and I'll call hello world. I'm going to hit the save button. It is automatically going to refresh it. I don't like the color of it, so how do I change that? There is an attribute called style, and inside style I can choose color and I can call red. Okay, when I hit save, it turns red. There are ways of changing the look and feel and size of this. There is something called as font size, and if I change the font size to 96 and save it, it is going to appear crazy big. There are ways using which you can control the appearance of these tags inside the element attribute itself, but then I would highly discourage doing anything remotely similar to this. All right, you are never going to put anything related to styling inside an HTML document. And my professional tip to you, you should understand what is single responsibility principle. HTML is for communicating information and data and hypertext to the browser, right? Leave it at that. Just pass on that data. If you want to style the document differently, there is a different type of document. It is called a style sheet, and uh, that is a topic for tomorrow. And we're going to look at styling these documents in that section in a lot more detail, and that is going to be a single responsibility, an easier way, a separate way of separating the data that you want to send and the styling that you want to have.